I don't even know what that means.
Dude, so, okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast with me, Trevor, and I've got Kyle again this week.
What up,
What's up,
what
man?
up? Dude, it's good to be back.
Like a normal episode back.
Right. I know, because, dude, it's lame. Like, I hope people enjoy listening to us. Like, if you listen to us and don't enjoy us, then you need to, like, rethink your life. So I hope you enjoy it and enjoy us. Because I thoroughly enjoyed doing this. And the month or so that I've been gone, I've, like, really missed it. I've really missed just having really dumb takes and talking about music. Like, I've seen all these things on social media, and I'm like, man, I wish I could tell Trevor this really stupid take that I have on his band and for you to make fun of me. But, you know, because like my wife it just looks like glazed over, you know, like, what are you talking about?
It just doesn't hit the same.
No, it
It just
doesn't.
doesn't hit the same. I mean, it's been a legitimate month. The last episode where it was like an episode, not the interview with Mike, was Shai Halud, which we put out on June 17th, and we're recording this on July 17th. It's been a month, bro.
And then to just come right back and to interview like a band that I've enjoyed for almost 20 years, you know, it's crazy. So like that was such a cool experience.
It was, which if you haven't listened to that one, go and catch our last episode. We interviewed Mike Perez of No Bragging Rights. He does the Walking Blind podcast. That was a ton of fun, and we really appreciated him jumping on. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, dude, we got a month of catch up to do.
I know.
So, what do you got for me?
I mean, like I haven't listened to a ton of music, I guess. Like I was in Guatemala. I was in Guatemala for like 2 weeks. I didn't even have cell service, so I didn't really like listen to much. You know, I think we talked about a couple bands. There's like this band from Texas that sounded like an old school MySpace band, which was kind of cool, but I can't remember what they're called. Sentiment? Is that who it was?
Oh, okay. Maybe that's who it was. Scourge, man. But Scourge is a band you've texted about multiple times.
Did you finally listen to them?
Yeah, dude, I've listened to Scourge. And I listened to that album specifically when you sent it over. I listened to 3 or 4 of the songs just the other day. So, you coming back?
Dude, I kind of. But it's weird because, like, I found this weird pocket of metal that I've enjoyed. Things like Scourge, Power Trip, like Power Violence, like stuff that's thrash-based. And see, we're going to get into it because the Black Dahlia Murder is not the metal that I'm into.
Oh, man.
I had such a hard time listening to all this music. But, yeah, I'm coming back around a little bit. There's a little bit of metal that's all right, you know? It's more on the, like, Power Violence thrash side, but at least
Scourge was dope. Scourge is dope. I did enjoy that album that you sent over. I don't have it in front of me to say the name. I feel bad about that. But, no, I wanted to talk, and we'll get into this in a minute, but I wanted to talk about Black Dahlia because of their new single, Aftermath.
With the album that looks like a butthole.
Sure. I mean, it's like the... Oh, my God. Well, all right, then. It's the ocean swallowing ships and stuff.
Sure,
but I guess from a distance,
it's a butthole with a bunch of dingleberries.
Dude,
haven't you missed me? Haven't you missed me?
For real though, this is the kind of stuff that's been lacking on the thing, and you know, maybe this is why Mike decided to jump on with us because he hadn't heard that crap in a minute. So
maybe, yeah.
But no, that single is great.
It was all right.
You're crazy.
You could tell it's a different singer, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying like there's some difference, but we're skipping ahead. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to see, let's see. I don't know when this is going to release. I may or may not have already seen Koyo. That's this Saturday for me.
Oh, sick.
So I'll be hitting that up.
Which, who's on that? Is that?
It's Koyo, One Step Closer, and Ancient.
It is the 3.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they're playing.
They're playing at a small venue that doesn't have a barricade, so it's gonna be a ton of fun.
Nice.
Hey, I bought these tickets like a couple months before because I saw the venue and I was like, man, that'll sell out, and
Yeah.
they're gonna cram it, and it's gonna be real good. So
Nice.
I'm
Dude,
pumped.
I'm so bummed that I couldn't make it to the one here. I ended up giving my tickets away uh, because, first of all, the 4th of July, I already talked about this with Evan from Johnny Baseball, but it needs to be one day. I'm done with these like 3-day 4th of
What are
July
you?
events.
What are you, a commie?
No, man. Like, I'm cool with the fireworks and all that stuff. You can do it for a month. I don't care. But when I have to like go to 3 different cities fireworks shows because I've got families in each of those cities over 3 different nights, I'm kind of over that.
Yeah,
Like, I'm good with one. Good with one. I'm good with one parade. I'm happy with that. If I can go sit out on my lawn and watch other fireworks, awesome. I'm over traveling to multiple events for it though. But kids had fun, so
that's good.
that's all that
That's
really
good.
matters, right?
I mean, I don't know. Koyo's a cool show, so
Yeah, I told my wife, I'm like,
you should have just taken your kids to it.
I kind of told my wife, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to fireworks, and she's like, no, you're going to fireworks. I'm like, well, looks like it's contest time then. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was cool
but
though that you did that.
dude,
I
I
was out of
just
town.
like,
I was out of town when you did that, and I didn't like. I just started seeing all these Instagram messages popping up, and I was like, "Oh, he's giving away his ticket. That's cool.
yeah, I
Respect."
mean, there's no reason. Here's my feelings around it. I don't know if the show sold out or not. If it didn't, it was really close to selling out. But they would cost me $30. You know
Right.
what I mean? It was like 30, $40. And I'm like, why not just give it to someone who either wasn't planning on going, couldn't afford it, whatever it was, it doesn't matter to me. So I don't need to resell it for $20 when I paid $40 for it, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
that big of a deal. So it was fun. It was cool just to give them away. I've actually bought several sets of tickets recently for upcoming shows. Like I just went and saw the Wonder Years on Monday,
Oh yeah.
and I bought two because my wife was supposed to go with me. My wife's pregnant, and she's like, I'm not going and standing at a concert for 4 hours. So, again, if you've been seeing social media posts, you'll probably see some more where there's an extra ticket floating around
Yeah.
because I bought sets and I'm
So
only using one.
if you're
So,
in Salt Lake City, keep track of our social media. Not only will you get a free ticket, but you'll be thoroughly entertained by the stuff that we post, especially me. So
yeah. And if we want to go over this again, if it's like legitimate and makes sense for the page, it's probably me. If it's ACDC running across the stage playing
that
guitar,
was a good one, though, huh?
what was that?
I don't
It's
know,
probably
dude.
Kyle.
There's like this weird trend on social media of people doing like clips of stuff like that where they don't do the actual sound. They just like take away all the sounds, but just make it sound like the guy's going like, and it's way funny. It's great. I did one for. Did you not see the one I posted about the guys doing crabcore?
I probably did.
And they're all like headbanging, and you can hear them like grunting, and the guy, and the shoes are squeaking and stuff. It's way funny.
Oh, I did see that
Yeah,
one.
I'm
I
all
did
for
see
it.
that one. So, but dude, the Wonder Years, they are such a good band live.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. So they hadn't been to Utah in like 2 years or something like that. So the Hum Goes On Forever came out 2022, and they hadn't played any of those songs live yet in Utah. So that was a ton of fun. It was at Soundwell, which is like our mid-sized venue. I think it kind of more or less replaced in the venue
Okay.
out here. It
Okay.
holds about 600 people.
Yeah.
And if they didn't sell out again, there was like 20 tickets left or something like that by the time doors opened. So they had 4 bands. Good Terms was the first one, which I've got a little bit of a complaint about Good Terms.
Okay.
So,
You left on bad terms.
yes,
Okay.
like it was not great. So they were up there. They're a 4-piece, and they had 3 guys playing guitar and no bass.
So they just backtracked the bass.
or they just didn't play
Or they
bass.
just didn't have a bass.
I don't know. I mean, like whatever it was, like they were playing like easy core style sound kind of thing. They had some breakdowns, a little bit of screaming, a few things like that, but it was still very, very poppy. But the freaking lead singer would like put his guitar down sometimes and just sing. Other times he would pick it up and he'd play guitar. I'm like, listen, man, one of you guys has to suck it up. One of you guys has to bite the bullet and play the damn bass. If it's the singer and you put the bass down every third song, I don't care. But don't do that. Don't do three guitarists and not a bass player.
I mean, I don't know. It kind of just sounds like they're not really playing their instruments anyways. So at that point, just go full boy band and just wear like the white suits without shirts on and dance together, you know?
Go like Beach Boy style. Like just everyone plays a guitar. They don't need anything. Like let's just go all guitar.
Exactly.
So,
I've never even heard of that band. So
they were fine. Like it was okay. The next band up was Like Roses. I was actually pretty excited to see them. They put on a great show.
They have the girl singer, right?
Yep.
Yeah, she's good. She's really good.
Yeah, they were solid.
Some of their stuff on social media before.
It was great. Their guitarist, their other guitarist, he was on the side of the stage and he had a fan blowing on him. He had really long hair and kept like blowing up. And so I like did a post. It was like Roses brought us pop punk Jesus. So it was like flowing out there. So they were cool. And then, dude, I've seen Knuckle Puck like 4 or 5 times. I've never intentionally gone to see Knuckle Puck.
Yeah.
Like they're a band that just didn't catch on for me. This show, I was a little bit more entertained by them. I might go listen to them a little bit more now. I thought that they put on a pretty good show.
Yeah.
And the crowd really got into them.
Their like older stuff's really good. Like they have their first EP or whatever is super cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you remember Jared Alonge or Alonge? Yeah. Well, I don't know how you say his name. Do you remember the Miss like
Nuclear Pook?
Yeah, Canuckley Pook. And they like, dude, they like freaked out at him.
Oh yeah.
Like it was really bad. And so ever since then I was like, man, I don't know. Like it's obviously not that big of a deal and it's not going to like sway me from listening to him. But then I saw him live after that and I was like, these guys are kind of pretentious. I don't know. Yeah. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And so I don't know. I saw them with 4 Year Strong. What was that, last year?
2 years ago.
Enemy of the World.
On the Enemy of the World one. Yeah. That was the time I've seen them. I don't even remember. They just happen to like always be on pop punk shows. So like anytime I've gone to a pop punk show, like typically Knuckle Puck's on there.
I remember he got up, the singer, and he was like, "This is the heaviest song we've ever written." And it was like not the heaviest song.
When you have someone like 4 Year with you and stuff. So
not even that. Like just out of their music, I was like, man, like you can't even really mosh. Like not like karate kick, ninja fighting mosh, but like push pit. Like you couldn't even really push pit to this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know.
It was kind of fun at this show just because there was a ton of crowd surfing.
Okay.
So, everyone was trying to get up towards the stage. They did barricade this time. So like they were just pulling crowd surfers down, but it was cool that way. There was a lot of people crowd surfing, a lot of people going forward. That was awesome. But dude, the Wonder Years, they're just so good.
They're like amazing live. Yeah.
I've always been a huge fan of them. I had forgotten that I had seen them, but I saw them with my wife like 12, 13 years ago. I don't remember. I want to say it was with Set Your Goals maybe, but I don't remember. Anyways, it was an awesome show.
Did they play
on Monday?
Like this wasn't like a tour for anything specific, right? They weren't playing an album or anything?
No, they played through everything. They played a song off of every album except maybe Sister Cities, I think.
Okay.
So, which that was the one album that I never really got into. So I'm not mad, but
yeah, I haven't really listened to anything of theirs after The Greatest Generation, except for their most recent album. I think is pretty good.
The Hum Goes On Forever is great, but No Closer to Heaven might be like The Greatest Generation is definitely number one. No Closer to Heaven might be number 2 for me. That album is incredible. They got a guest vocal spot from the Fever 333 guy. What's his name? Do
I
you know
don't
what
know
I'm
what you're
talking
talking
about?
about. No.
Okay. Well, they have a guest spot from him, and that guest spot's like one of my favorite, I guess, vocal spots ever. It's awesome. So that album's incredible. But about 3 songs in, I was just like, you know what, screw this. I pushed all the way to the front. I was standing there, like 2 people back, just like singing my heart
Yeah,
out. I love them. They're
that's
awesome.
cool.
They're
That's way
awesome.
cool.
So, what about new music, new shows coming up? What do you got?
I'm trying to think, man. I mean, I think you've talked about most of the news stories so far, and that's been a little bit. I mean, I was out of town for that one too.
Yeah,
So,
just today, Sucker Punch dropped their latest single, All for Nothing.
that's right.
Dude, Sucker Punch might be my favorite band that we've talked about in terms of the local band series.
They're really
Like,
good.
I enjoy, we wouldn't talk about the other local bands if we didn't enjoy them. Like, we go through probably, what would you say, 6 or 7 bands before we settle on who we're actually talking about, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So everyone we talk about, we like, but Sucker Punch is the one that I keep going back to them. So I'm super excited for this. All for Nothing. It's great. That's a single to go check out for
yeah.
sure.
So the new Reviler is awesome.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we will probably do like a local episode on those guys. I don't know how local they are, but they're really good. The new Gagging Order. I don't know if we've talked about that. Their new album is super cool.
Yeah.
Did they get
It
a new
was
vocalist?
no, but
No,
dude, at least I don't think so. From everything I can see, it's the same guy.
it's freaking
Uh,
heavy.
it got way heavier. I
Yeah.
really liked it. I thought that how they recorded it sounded good. I thought the way they took the sound went really well. I thought it was cool. I thought it
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, that's all I got. I don't know. I'm sure there was more.
Yeah. Um the shows that got announced, well, one show that got announced I'm super mad is not coming through Utah is Norma Jean and Darkest Hour, but Teeth from
Yeah, I saw
Canada's
that.
on there
Mm-hmm.
and they're playing like the Canadian dates in the Northeast. Dude, I want to see Teeth so bad. I have been listening to these guys for years now, like 3-4 years, and I want them to come through like more than any band right now.
Yeah.
I think it'd be absolutely incredible.
I
So
didn't
I'm
even know they were
super.
still like doing crap. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how active they really are, kind of thing, but they post and they're consistently kind of updating and they're doing stuff. They just like, I don't know if they are all in jobs or whatever and just don't have the time to do like big tours or anything like that, but they're still playing.
yeah.
I freaking love them. And it makes
Um,
me very sad.
I saw that Zabalban Speed show that got announced for Texas.
That's cool. I
So
didn't see that one.
yeah, it's like end of September or something like that.
That's
So
sick.
yeah,
Will you you'll go
hit
out
that
to
one
that
up.
one?
I'm gonna try to. Yeah,
Dude, Zabalba was fun. And Speed, I like Speed. You guys
I
can
don't.
crap on them for their sellout, but I like them.
I mean, yeah. I don't think Speed is gonna be one of those bands that is around in 5 years. So
You don't?
no,
Because why?
I don't feel like they're doing all this stuff for the right reasons with all the crap, the random flute, the Reebok or whatever, Foot
Yeah.
Locker sponsorship.
See, and I disagree with you.
Uh,
I do think they'll be around. I almost wonder if they'll pull a turnstile, though, and start to change up
maybe,
their sound a little bit. So
maybe.
we'll see. We'll see if they keep going. But,
I'll go to
anyways,
that show for Zabalba though because I like Zabalba.
dude,
So
that show was so fun, too, when
yeah,
they came through Salt Lake. I I love Zabalba now. Like I always liked Zabalba, but seeing him live, it was definitely different. So, all right, one last thing that I've just got to get off my chest. We need like dynamic pricing for concerts based off of height. So like if you're like a 5 foot nothing person, you should basically get a free ticket. You should be able to go in the door and not have to pay. Because I can't tell you how many like probably girlfriends or whoever were at the Wonder Years who did not see a second of that show because there were 6'2", 6'3" guys throughout the entire crowd. And those dudes should be paying like double a ticket price kind of thing.
Just be taller, man.
What?
Yeah.
No, man. Like you should be required. Like, how tall are you? This is a standing room only show. How tall are you? 5 foot? Here you go. Here's your ticket.
They don't count towards capacity.
You're 6'2", 6'3".
You sound like all these girls 200%. On Tinder that like won't date people because they're not tall enough. That's bodyism or whatever the term is.
I can guarantee you quickly those dudes who are claiming to be 6 foot tall are not entering 6 foot to get cheaper ticket prices.
Yeah.
But no, dude.
I mean, I don't. How tall are you?
I'm like 6'1", probably in my shoes, kind of thing.
Okay, so we're like the same height.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit taller than me, so I'm probably 6.
I never have issues.
I don't.
That shows.
But I also buy tickets for my wife, and like when we went to Story of the Year, we were standing there, and I'm like, "This is awesome." She's like, "Yeah, I can't see him."
Yeah, just stand in the back though; it's easier to see. And honestly, like if you're short and you're up front, it's better for you anyways, because when Fat Kyle jumps off the stage, like you're not the one catching me. Like the 6'3" dude is getting my foot in his face. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah. That's a valid point. So
like there's a little bit of benefit.
You know? I don't know. My wife's 5'1", and she's complained about it. I'm like,
tell your wife like there's this spot in the crowd that's like kind of a circle and it's wide open. We're gonna stand in the middle of that, and she'll see fine.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
until you can't. But
so 2 black guys happen. Yeah. Let's go. So, oh man. Well, we already kind of started to allude to this, but we're talking the Black Dahlia murder today. I can't believe that you're saying that you're only ho-hum on the Black Dahlia murder.
So I listened to them a lot, like back in the day. What is the album that everybody...
Nocturnal. I mean, Nocturnal was like what most people go to. Yeah.
Like I listened to a crap ton of Nocturnal. So do you want me to get into my hate now, or do you want me to wait till it's like more specific? And it's not hate. It's just...
So tell me, well, let me ask you this, okay? Because this is what I really wanted to talk about when talking about a death metal band. Black Dahlia might be like really the only death metal band I really listen to. I've started to listen to a little bit more, but not a ton. Black Dahlia was for a long time the death metal band for me.
Yeah.
I listened to a lot of deathcore, but not death metal, right? What is it about death metal that catches people? Because the different genres, right? There's something that catches you, right? Like pop punk, it's usually like singability. It's the easy to learn lyrics and all of the sing-alongs, the gang vocals, things like that catch you. For metalcore, a lot of the times, especially like the MySpace era, it was like the heavy bass drops. Who could do the coolest breakdown? Things along those lines. That's what we were looking for. When it comes to death metal, like I want to talk to someone who's like a huge death metal fan and be like, really, the Black Dahlia, a lot of the stuff sounds very similar to me. I know the songs that I love, but I can't tell you why I love those songs more than their other songs.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with everything that you said. I think so. Metal is very interesting, right? And the closest that we have is like when you get to punk and then like traditional hardcore punk, right? Like going from Black Flag to Minor Threat is like not different. It's like what Mike said in the No Bragging Rights. Like most of the punk bands you like are actually hardcore bands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But see, like metal, I feel like the scale for metal is like a lot broader, right? Because you have like power metal, which is like you want to be a Viking type stuff. You know, you have like Norwegian. Yeah, you know, then you have like Dragon Force, and like I guess musically and instrumentally, like it's kind of similar, but when you get into like vocals of stuff, like you get this huge spectrum of metal,
Yeah.
right? And like I struggle with death metal, I struggle with black metal because I just can't do the vocals. Like
Really?
I was struggling with the Black Dahlia because like I don't like the gremlin sounding, and I don't like the like getting your bowels removed through your butt, you know, growl. And so I think that's why I've gravitated towards thrash, because thrash takes more of like a hardcore type vocal
Yeah.
and overlays it with like metal music, you
Yeah.
know, like Judiciary, for example, is like super metal, but their vocalist, I can actually stand, you know, but you get into like 200 Stab Wounds and Singwa Sugabog, and like the music is cool, but I just can't do those vocals, man. I just can't do it.
Which,
Like it
dude,
kills me.
that new 200 Stab Wounds album is actually great.
Ah,
Like it's
but
a
see,
great
but
album.
that's the thing though, is like I feel like in hardcore music, you do get like a pretty big difference of what we categorize as hardcore. And if you want to be genre police or whatever, like whatever. But like to go from like Drug Church, for example, to like Drain, to like a beatdown band like Speed, like we
Yeah.
all consider those hardcore, but they're very different. If you listen to a death metal band, they're always gonna sound the same. You know what I mean? Like it's just how it
Yes.
is.
I mean, to an extent, right? I do think that bands like Black Dahlia and I don't know. There's a lot of the bands that treaded the line of like true like death metal that I enjoyed. They ended up throwing breakdowns in there. So they started being categorized as deathcore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like when Black Dahlia came out, there was also like As Blood Runs Black. There was like All Shall Perish. There was like even
Yeah, but
Suicide
those are
Silence.
deathcore bands.
Exactly. But until the breakdown, they sound like Black Dahlia.
I think Black Dahlia's problem was that they were very involved in hardcore, right? I mean, they toured with
Right.
Terror. You know what I mean? So like I think the reason why they get categorized with bands like As Blood Runs Black or All Shall Perish or whatever is because those guys as well are hardcore kids playing metal music.
Heavier
But
music.
but there are death metal bands that sound exactly like the Black Dahlia that are part of metal culture, not hardcore. You know what I mean? I think you and I have this skewed perception because like All Shall Perish is dope, right?
Yeah.
War of Ages, for example. War of Ages is like a top 20 band for me. Like I freaking love War of Ages. But
Why are you bringing up War of Ages? They're like metalcore through and through.
no, I know, but I'm just saying that like they're like metalcore, but they tour with hardcore bands. They used to play hardcore festivals.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Is like I think Black Dahlia, like we have this perception of Black Dahlia that people that are big into death metal are not gonna have. You
I'm
know?
following your train of thought there. And I agree with you. I do think that that is why Black Dahlia stood out because, like, my first memories of Black Dahlia are Miasma. Like, that
Yeah.
album, it's absolutely fantastic. But, like, my very first impression of Black Dahlia was the Statutory Ape music video
Yeah.
where he's running around in the ape costume.
Monkeys.
Yeah, but they're up on stage and there's kids hardcore dancing to Black Dahlia. And their vocalist, Trevor, before he passed away, like the thing about Black Dahlia is they always looked like they were having fun.
Yeah.
They weren't up there with like they grew their hair out at some point, right? But they didn't just have it like down over their faces. They weren't just like hair spinning like Cannibal Corpse and stuff like what you saw in Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
Like he was typically in a pair of basketball shorts, his shirt off. He had heartburn tattooed across his stomach, and they were usually just like going wild on stage. Like
Yeah.
it was a much more hardcore feel, a much more like MySpace era like metalcore
Deathcore.
band, deathcore.
This sounds weird, but they're a deathcore band that doesn't break down.
No, exactly. And that's
Right.
my point about like the As Blood Runs Blacks,
Yeah.
the Abacabs, like weird bands like
Not
that,
for a
right?
Cowboy.
Job for a Cowboy is they were playing the fast stuff, and then where it should have broken down, it just didn't break down. They soloed instead. And that's what
Which,
keeps them more death metal.
I mean, I'm really torn on that because I went back and listened to them and I was like, I can appreciate that there's a band that's been around for, I don't know, what, 2003, so almost 30 years, 20 years. What is that?
21.
21. Math. Nerd that you knew that.
What?
That's been around that long and didn't give in to breakdowns. That was part of the hardcore scene. Like, part of me was like, I appreciate that. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, not every song needs a breakdown. But then the other part of me was like, I listened to some of these songs. I was like, oh man, a breakdown would be so sick at this part. So I was like torn. Like, the adult in me was like, not everything needs a breakdown. But the kid in me was like, man, this breakdown would have been perfect right here.
Right, right. So did you have a chance to find their demo, What a Horrible Night to Have a Curse?
No.
So it's a metalcore album. Like, it feels very, so this is 2001, right? 2001 is when they put out their first demo, and it breakdown. It has a lot of what uh early 2000s 2005 deathcore sounded like. Sounds very reminiscent of a Blood Runs Black,
Yeah.
bands like that, right? So their transition into more of death metal is actually kind of interesting because they were already treading that line. Like Trevor, prior to like really getting back into, he grew up initially on death metal and was all into like the Cannibal Corpses, all of the Frozen Souls, all of that kind of stuff, and then transitioned into hardcore. And when they got their start in Detroit, they were playing with hardcore bands. Like you said, they played with Terror. They played with who was the other big band that got called out that they were playing with early on?
It was
Unearthed.
Despised Icon.
Yeah, Despised is a deathcore band,
Oh, they
more
are?
or less.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
I mean, Despised, they tread that line as well, but they were one of the more initial deathcore bands also. I'm talking Unearthed, Terror. I think they played shows with like Madball when they came through and stuff like that. He turned into kind of a hardcore kid. And then as they started the band and as they transitioned that sound into the death metal thing, that's when he really got back into like the death metal of everything. He
Yeah.
credits Carcass as like his main influence for vocals, doing the highs and the lows and stuff like that. I also think that that was the thing about Black Dahlia that really set them apart is he was crazy high at the time and then crazy low for the time, right?
Because
I love that.
again, I think that you had thrash that was very high, and then you had
And
like
then
black metal that was like very low,
and death
and like
metal.
yeah, and like traditional death metal, yeah, it was like very low.
Right, Cannibal
So
Corpse and stuff along those lines, you
yeah,
know. So for me, that's why Black Dahlia stood apart is they did things just a little bit different. I didn't like all the crazy gruesome imagery of traditional death metal as well. And
yeah,
although their lyrics like talk about that kind of stuff, I was never a big lyric, like pay attention to the lyric kind of guy initially.
right.
But like I couldn't do Cannibal Corpse. Like a song titled I Come Blood. I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it just didn't sit well with me. So
yeah,
that was the reason why like Black Dahlia stood apart, in my opinion.
yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that. I going back and listening to them, they're probably from a skill standpoint one of the most technical and skilled musician band that we've talked about. They're incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, the drummer dude, like is he stabbing himself with like an EpiPen or whatever before he plays? Because it's just like the dude doesn't stop. Like it's crazy, you
Right.
know?
And they've actually gone through a couple drummers. So kudos to like those 3 or 4 guys who
Yeah,
they've gone through too
yeah.
to all do the same thing.
And even
But
like the vocalist too, because like that's not easy. And it's just one thing I appreciated about him is it's just in your face, like all the time.
yeah.
Like there's a few parts where it's got like a musical bridge, but then everything else is just like in your face speed. And I mean, it's cool. If you like that kind of music, these guys are like the beacon of what it should be, you know?
Sure. Sure. So where, I mean, I assume that you were miasma as well getting
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah.
So you've now listened to Unhollowed. Like, at
I
what point?
actually like Unhollowed the best. I think that's probably my favorite album of theirs.
I actually agree with that. I think Unhollowed is
Yeah.
incredible. I really like Miasma just because this is another thing I was thinking about. If a band has been around for, let's say, 15, 20 years or whatever, if they put an album out in 2005 to 2008, it is 90% of the time going to be my favorite album. Like,
Okay.
it's what I grew up with, right? It's what I listened to the
Yeah.
most of, probably. And it was my introduction to most of these bands. So Miasma is like really high up there, even though a lot of people, like Trevor specifically, even was like, yeah, Miasma wasn't our best. It's like very, very low on his list. So it's always crazy to me. But Unhollowed is incredible, specifically Funeral Thirst.
Yeah,
That
dude.
song, dude,
So
freaking just
good.
rips
Yeah.
front to back. It has a little bit of a heavier, chuggy feel kind of thing too, which I feel like is a little bit more that like hardcore style, that metalcore style that they were doing just prior to it. So
I just feel like what I liked about it the most is it didn't feel super polished. Like it still
yes,
felt pretty raw, which I think like lends itself very well to this kind of music. Like some of their later stuff that gets a little overproduced, over polished. It just feels boring to
yeah,
me in that sense, because it's like there's no way that you're that on time with stuff. You know what I mean?
right,
Like, but this album felt raw. It felt like they were actually playing stuff, and this was one of the because I listened to everything. And if you played me a song, I couldn't tell you what album it was from unless it was a song from this album.
sure,
You know what I
okay,
mean? Everything else was just like you could play it and be like, well, that's a cool Black Dahlia song. I have no idea, what album it's
see,
from or anything, right?
and that's probably like how I feel about like Miasma is I know a lot of the Miasma songs, like A Vulgar Picture. That is Black Dahlia for me. That opening riff, the
Yeah.
dude, I can't tell you how many times I listened to that song, like just over and over. Like that to me was Black Dahlia. But those three songs, Statutory Ape, A Vulgar Picture to Novelty Crosses, like those three runs right there, I freaking love it. So
Yeah.
Miasma definitely holds like a soft place in my heart. And then we go into Nocturnal, right? This
Yeah, I
is,
remember this album. I remember this album came out and listening to it. And I remember my mom like walking in on me. I think I was playing like Doom or something, and I'm like blowing up demons or whatever. It's all gory, and I'm listening to this, and she's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" But yeah, sick album.
yeah, this is where I feel like they started to polish up, right?
Yeah,
Unhollowed, Miasma, it still felt raw. It still felt, uh, like you said, there's very subtle, like you can just hear that they're playing it live kind of thing. Once you get to Nocturnal, it starts to
hmm
polish a little bit,
and
which
I think.
this,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go for it.
I was just gonna say, and I think that's why this is the last album that I think I really like from them, is because everything after this, it's like I'd rather just. I'm gonna pull Josh here and just be like, I'd rather listen to Miasma or Nocturnal.
Right?
So, I mean, this album is incredible. It's incredible, and I think that's why. But everything else after it just felt like maybe that's just death metal in general. But everything after it just sounded the same or not as good as this album.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I listened to a lot of Nocturnal. I remember when Deflorate came out and it just didn't catch me the same way. It started to get, I don't even know the way to describe it. It was like really technical. It was it wasn't as heavy. It was like usually it was like a little bit higher up versus like the lower end of the guitar scale kind of thing. And it was just like a little bit faster. Well, I no, it wasn't faster. I shouldn't say that. Uh I don't know. It was different. And this is the album that lost me.
Yeah.
It got a little bit power metal-y to me.
Yeah. I was
Maybe
just
that's the
thinking
way
that.
to
It felt like Dragon Force that screamed. There's
Yeah.
parts of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you had some of those like weird solos where like they're very like riding a horse into battle type solos. You know what I mean?
Sure. Which is kind of funny because I actually like that. Like 3 inches of blood. That's what I like about 3 inches of blood. That it's like the triples that you're going into. It's
Yeah.
like gallopy kind of thing. You
See,
know
I
what I
can only
mean?
take like again, and this is my problem with metal, and this is my problem with a lot of the stuff is like I can only take one band of doing that. You know, like I'm not going to listen to 100 bands that sound like 3 inches of blood. I'm just going to listen to 3 inches of blood.
Sure.
That's how I feel about the Black Dahlia. Like I'm not going to create a playlist with 100 death metal bands that all sound like the Black Dahlia. I'm just going to listen to Black Dahlia. But I couldn't tell you a single song from this album though, if you played it for me.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, this is where a lot of their albums start blending for me. I really liked once we start going deeper into this, like the album Ritual, I thought was great. I actually really like Verminous as well. And Nightbringers is a great album. But like Deflorate, Everblack, Abysmal,
Verminous is
they're
pretty
all
good.
I feel like they're all the same, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um when was it? I think it was 2000. They go on tour with Cannibal Corpse. When was that? Probably when they released
2000.
Nocturnal, 2007,
Yeah.
2008, I think is when they went out with Cannibal Corpse. I feel like that was the change for Black Dahlia. That's where all of a sudden Black Dahlia, well, number one, Nocturnal was an incredible release. It performed really well. It made the
Yeah.
Billboard, what, top 100 or something like that.
Like that, yeah.
And they got recognized for it appropriately. And then to go out with arguably the kings of death metal in Cannibal Corpse solidified who they were in the death metal scene. So maybe that's part of what some of this change was as well. Like they didn't really change their sound. They stuck to who they were and what they
Yeah.
were doing and stuff. But it was like 2007, 2008, where all of a sudden they stopped going with hardcore bands
Yeah.
and they start going with death metal bands.
Right.
They headline Ozfest. They headline Summer Slaughter Tour. They go out with, you know,
I mean, after that, they toured with like Amon Amarth and
yeah,
Children of Bodom and
Children of
Goat Whore.
Bodom, Goat Horror. Yeah, exactly. You get
Yeah.
a bunch of those kind of things versus maybe some like the hardcore bands or even deathcore bands. Like I do know that Whitechapel was on some of those bills, Suicide Silence was on some of those bills and things along those lines. But deathcore, people who like death metal hated deathcore. And people who liked metalcore weren't as heavy into deathcore.
Right.
Deathcore was like a weird subgenre that just received a ton of hate for a long
Well,
time.
I think it depended on where you were from too, because like deathcore was it in Salt Lake for
We
a
did.
bunch of years. You know.
We liked deathcore. We had
But
Chelsea
like,
Grin.
yeah, you go out east and like nobody liked deathcore,
Yeah, it's
except for
weird.
deathcore people. You know what I mean?
Right, right. It was a really weird population because now deathcore is like everywhere, right? People love deathcore.
Yeah.
But so it was probably 2007, 2008 where this change really took place.
It's a good
So
point. I never thought of that. I mean, you're right. That's a good point that it's like they just decided like, I guess this is who we are. Let's
yeah.
go play with Cannibal Corpse.
And I mean, kudos to them. They were Billboard Top 100 with like the next 8 albums. All of them have been Billboard Top 200. Incredible run.
And this album with a butthole as a cover is probably going to do it too.
Is Billboard still a thing on album releases?
Yeah.
Is
there's
it?
There's all that drama with like Taylor Swift.
Those are records though.
No, is it? Okay, maybe Billboard's not. I don't know, dude.
I don't know anymore. But I think that's also the time that I lost interest because I wasn't going to go to those shows. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to Summer Slaughter. I wasn't going to Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
Like I was going to other shows at the time. You know, we listened to a lot of metalcore is what we were listening to in pop punk. So,
But we listened to a lot of, because this is kind of in the same vein of like we listen to a lot of metalcore, but not the like pierce the veil metalcore. You know, not what people call metalcore now, which was very very death influenced. You know what I mean?
sure.
Like we were still on the hardcore side of metalcore.
Yeah. I mean, we were on the MySpace side of metalcore.
Yeah. Which like I don't know. Which I still think was because like we've talked about a lot of a lot of shows. Like we went to like I don't know. Like yeah, we never went to like the Cannibal Corpse because like we were never like on that side of the spectrum of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's like
We
that's the
had,
point I'm trying to make. Look, I
we had
got
a
like,
couple friends
worms
who
eating my
were.
brain. I don't know how to talk anymore.
We had a couple friends who were that I can remember who, like all the time, they were like, "Hey, are you going to this show?" I'm like, I'm just not. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to go and
I gotta go see
watch.
Guar and get
Yeah,
animal
which
blood thrown on me. You know,
to be honest, I'm actually a little disappointed. I never saw Guar. Like that might be a band that I would maybe go see, kind of thing. Same thing with Cannibal Corpse. I might go see them just because at this point I feel like I should, kind of thing.
yeah,
So, which after seeing Dying Fetus, I'm much more inclined to go to like that type of show. But going back through now and listening to the rest of the albums, the last five: Ritual, Everblack, Abysmal, Nightbringers, and Verminous. Which of those albums like stood out for you somewhat, or did you have at least some connection with?
I couldn't tell you. And I know I'm giving I did listen to him, so I'm not pulling a full Josh here. I did listen to him, but dude, nothing. Like I don't know, Verminous, maybe because it's the most recent one, and I don't know.
Okay.
They all sounded the same, dude. Look, I mean, this band's like it is what it is. They're a good band. They're good musically, like talent wise. You know, if you like death metal, I'm like almost guaranteed you like these guys. I just like I don't know. None of
Yeah.
all those albums are the same. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. And when I listened to them, I kept looking for things like, oh, I'm gonna point this out to Trevor. I couldn't find anything because I was like, oh, it's all the same.
Sure.
And if you like that, it's not a bad thing, right? I listen to melodic hardcore. It all sounds the same, you know.
Sure, that's true.
I get it.
So I liked Ritual. I thought it was cool. I did do some read up on Ritual, and during this time, Trevor got really into cults. So a lot of like the songs are based upon like his research.
Like he wrote about them.
No, like he was like part of like 4 different cults.
Oh.
No.
What is it that Creed says from The Office? That like you have more fun as a follower, but make way more money as a leader.
Which, I mean, honestly, dude, these dudes led the cult of Black Dahlia for a long time, kind of thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I really like this album. I think it's really good. Moonlight Equilibrium. It's a fun song. It's really fast. It's really aggressive. I think his vocals go really hard on it. I think it's great. Again, though, like I don't know if I could like sit here and tell you a ton of the different songs. Moonlight definitely stood out for me. The next album that like Everblack didn't do anything for me. Everblack's like the album that I couldn't think of anything to talk about for Everblack, which maybe a lot of people are going to give me hate for. But this 2013, this was just like a lost era of music for me kind of in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was listening to a lot of pop punk. I was listening to Neck Deep, a lot of The Story So Far. 4 Years Strong was in concert rotation and stuff. I didn't even know this album really existed. Like I've seen it, but I've never listened to it until we were doing this episode. I did though listen to Abysmal, Nightbringers, and Verminous all when they did come out. Abysmal's interesting. So they wrote this album in hopes of going back towards like a more nocturnal type of feel. Like
Mm.
they wanted to keep it very raw, unpolished. They wanted you to be able to like mid 2000s feel, you know what I mean? And they submitted the record to the record label and they're like, nope, you got to remix that. You got to remaster it. And they made them polish it up.
Bummer.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
There's the other thing that happens on here is there's some gang vocal parts,
that's
like
right.
in Vlad, Son of the Dragon, which maybe that happens on other albums and I just didn't catch it. But this was the first album where it was like, it caught me that they were doing some gang vocal parts. Like right at the beginning of Vlad, Son of the Dragon, it almost feels power metal type, a
Power
monomarth
metal. Yeah.
style. You know what I mean? So, and this is the first like album art that I was like, meh, I don't love that album art because it has like
I don't mind it actually.
the bodies being torn apart.
Oh, is that what the? I don't know, dude. Okay. You're
Like I actually like the majority of their album art, even
it's
like
like is it like a
Miasma.
is it like one of those Rorschach things where it's like, what does that look like to you, Trevor? Bodies being torn apart, which means there's something wrong with you.
There's literally bodies along the bottom of that have impalement and guts coming out. I don't know what you're talking about. You're
No, I can
smoking
see it now.
crack, bro.
I couldn't
Like,
notice it before, but I notice it now. I just was focused on the weird butthole at the top of it. What is it
dude,
with their obsession with buttholes?
it's your obsession, clearly. Like, you're the one Rorschaching this thing, and that's all you can think about, dude. Like,
Dude, okay, but like, tell me that freaking aftermath or whatever.
okay, you can have that one, all right.
All right,
But
fine. All right.
I
Yeah,
think,
I don't remember. I mean, now that I went back and listened to Vlad, Son of the Dragon or whatever, right now, I do remember that gang vocal part. But okay, so there's
yeah,
one thing I remember from one of these albums.
yeah. So, and then Nightbringers even like slowed down a little bit, like the song itself, Nightbringers. Like it's more of just like a I don't know. It's a slower tempo to get started, right? It's not
Mhm.
the fast, just constant, like in your face as a lot of Black Dahlia is. It does pick up later into the song, but a lot of it starts to feel power metal-y to me, Viking metal-ish kind of thing. So I don't know.
It's probably
Like,
when like Norwegian death metal or whatever is making a huge. Because I feel like that's all people talked about for a while,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Norwegian death metal.
I'm uh I'm actually gonna go see these guys when they come through. They're coming through with Dying Fetus, Angel Maker, and I don't remember who the other band was, but I think that is going to be really cool. I think that once Trevor passed away and Brian decided to keep the band going, which Trevor, I guess if you don't know, Trevor Strnad, I think is how you pronounce his name, is his last name there. He passed away in 2022. It was pretty shocking, right? They never officially said anything, but they did include the suicide prevention hotline in their announcement that he had passed away. So it's assumed that that is what
Yeah,
happened. Um, but they took a second, and then Brian Eschbach, who was their guitar player, who's been with Trevor since 2001 when they started the band, like he was the only original, he's taking over vocal duties. And they brought back Ryan Knight, who was their one of their main guitarists, I think from like 2008 to 2015 or something like that. I want to say Abysmal was his last album or that was the first album he wasn't on. I can't remember exactly.
yeah,
But they brought him back. So
yeah.
you're going to get a lot of that middle fill. You're going to get a lot of like the Ritual, Everblack, Abysmal type of feel off their new songs. But I thought that the new single was great. Aftermath, it's incredible. I think it's incredible. But I'm
Yeah.
getting more into death metal. now. Like so,
Yeah. You can
you know,
start painting your face white and doing an
yes,
upside down cross and stuff.
absolutely. So,
So
but
I thought the new single was good. Um, it's he does a good enough job, and I'm not saying that as like a dig at him. This is like no one's going to replace Trevor, right?
right.
But he does a good enough job to make it feel like Black Dahlia.
And
Eh,
I don't know if they could have brought in a new
No,
vocalist.
they couldn't have. And so I'm friends with a guy down here that is like a diehard um, Black Dahlia fan.
Okay.
Listen to him always. Um, and he like so this is like his favorite band is Black Dahlia. So he did I lose you? Oh no, never mind. He says that he likes the new single, and he's like, as somebody who's lived and breathed Black Dahlia, he's like, that's like the greatest honor that you could give anyone. That like musically and like vocally, it's all like up to par, and it sounds like Black Dahlia. And he said he proved that same point. He said it's better that they did that instead of bringing someone else in and trying to put their own stamp on the Black Dahlia when that's not what they need. You
Right.
know what I mean? They don't need the band to change. They need it to be the Black Dahlia, you know?
Right.
And so I don't know. I thought that was a really cool take because it's like, yeah, you probably could have gotten another vocalist in that, you know, was very talented, that could do a lot of stuff, but then the sound starts to change, you know?
Agreed. I think that by doing this, number one, I think vocal wise, lyric wise, all of that kind of stuff, he's going to have the passion for it. He's going to have the feeling for it because
Yep.
he's literally been there since day one, writing all of these, hearing all of these, recording all of these. Like he's going to do them justice. There's a lot of talented vocalists, but to those guys, words are going to be words.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and again, we're talking about mutilating bodies, stuff like that. But
Anyone can write gorecore lyrics, you know?
the feeling that he has, though, his connection to Trevor and all that stuff, it's just going to make it stand apart. So kudos to them for Brian moving over to vocals. And, you know, he does a good job. I think his vocals sound good. He's not going to get you quite the gremlin high that you get from Trevor. He's not going to get you quite the depths of hell low that you would get at times, kind of thing. He's kind of that in the middle. He can go a little higher, he can go a little lower, but he's just more in the middle.
Yeah.
So I like him. I think it's good. I'm very excited for the album, which is going to be called Servitude, it looks like. So that's expected, I think, to drop end of August or beginning of September.
Yeah. I
So,
think September is what I saw.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it, buttholes and all. And yeah, man, there's not too many death metal bands that I will listen to. Black Dahlia is one of them.
Yeah. There's no death metal bands I'll listen to except for Black Dahlia. So
Yeah. So
if
cool.
if you catch me listening to that stuff, like I don't know, something's wrong. So
Gosh dang. But what I would really like to know, if people get all the way to this point and you want to leave a comment or message us on social medias, is what in death metal, if you're a big death metal guy, does separate songs. What should we be listening for that we're not hearing, kind of thing? Because at some point it did. It started to blend together, kind of thing.
yeah.
There's minor things here, minor things there that I can pick apart. But after 10 hours of Black Dahlia, give or take, yeah, it kind of started to sound, well, it did. It started to sound the same. So
Yeah.
if there's differences, send them our way.
And again, it's not our thing. I'll reiterate. I listen to melodic hardcore. It all sounds the same. But I can pick things out because I'm a huge fan of it. Maybe we just don't get it because it doesn't really click with us, you know?
Yeah. But those are the things that I want to know about, right? Like we can pick stuff out of melodic hardcore. We can pick stuff out of traditional hardcore, right? Like there's things that separate bands for us. I want to know what that is for death metal specifically.
Is it every death metal band or just one death metal band that's obsessed with buttholes?
I mean, let's be honest. The majority of the albums, they're removing intestines and stuff along those lines. So you might be
So
more in.
comment that too. If you're a huge fan of death metal, tell me your level of obsession with buttholes.
Because
I
I
think
can guarantee you it's not the same level as Kyle's.
debatable.
So, all right, man. Well, I'm glad that we got back on this. I'm glad you're back. I hope your stomach worm doesn't kill you. And
I'm waiting on results.
I think
the last thing.
The last
thing real quick. Yeah. If anyone's, I should have done this at the beginning. And if anyone's listening to this, whatever, good childhood friend. It's got another podcast where they talk about treasure hunting in Utah. It's called Cash Me Outside. They just bumped up to like number 23 on Spotify podcast for history, like a history podcast. Number 23. Sick. Like super cool. Shout out to them. They're cool guys. It's a cool podcast. If you're in Salt Lake and like treasure hunting, go check out Cash Me Outside, which is a freaking genius name.
Yeah.
Go check them out. It's a cool pod. So
yeah, shout out to those guys. So cool. Well, I think next week we're going to get back on the local band train. Before that though, we might have another interview mixed in there. So got some cool stuff coming up again.
Yeah.
Getting back to it.
Getting back to it now that vacation's on. Unless, like I die from my
tapeworms. So
yeah. We'll just have the tapeworm get on for me.
I'll just keep it in a jar behind me.
Oh, dude.
That's death metal enough, right?
Good point. This episode is death metal through and through, man.
All right, dude. Okay, well, I will catch you next week then.
All right. See you, man.
Peace.